People don't realize how much of a beast Carl Sagan was. He didn't write books, it was too slow. He recorded his words on a cassette tape and had people transcribe the words for him. And then he'd be given the printouts and then revise it. He was always giving talks and lectures across the US. And one time he was driving across the country and he wrote a book on the way to a lecture. Oh yeah, and his license plate was Phobos for the moon and Mars. He had so many ideas, he would write the outline for textbooks on the back of envelopes and to-do lists. He got his PhD in astrophysics at 26 years old. And when most people get a PhD, their dissertation is just regular stuff. It's not really making a discovery. But Carl Sagan's discovered the runaway greenhouse effect on Venus. It was a breakthrough at the time. Most people thought that Venus was like a tropical paradise. But Sagan showed that because of the greenhouse effect, the temperature on Venus could be over 600 degrees. And 2 years later, NASA sends out a probe to Venus and confirms Sagan's PhD thesis. Then Carl Sagan writes Cosmos. And he actually travels across the world in different countries like Egypt and Italy and Russia and Cambodia. He goes to all these countries to film for Cosmos. And he actually studied their cultures before he went. He didn't just have a green screen. Then he casually writes a novel to one of the greatest sci-fi films ever. Then he and a couple colleagues writes a paper about nuclear winter, which pretty much stalls the Cold War. He advocated so much to stop the nuclear arms race to Congress that it eventually made its way to Reagan, who eventually talked to Gorbachev, where they both agreed that nuclear war doesn't end in anybody winning. Not only did he work on several NASA missions, but he convinced the head of NASA to take the pale blue dot photo. NASA was originally not going to take the photo, it was too risky for the camera, but Sagan was relentless and kept asking to take the photo. They finally caved in and we got this amazing photo. Sagan was nominated to be a member of the NAS, but a lot of his colleagues were so jealous and envious that he was famous and popular when it comes to science. In fact, they kind of hated him for it. So because they didn't like his public persona, they didn't vote for him to be a member. He turned down 3 presidential invitations from Reagan. And he was a climate activist before pretty much anybody else was. In 1985, he testified before Congress, offering solutions to climate change, which we've ignored for 30 years. Oh yeah, and he almost died 2 times in his life. But he still continued to protest, and he still continued to write books and appear on television shows. He even published The Demon Haunted World while he was sick with cancer. This guy was a beast.